Email deliverability is critical. Hi, I'm Catherine Ferris, owner of Marketecs and Marketecs Engine. For anyone who's investing time, money, and overall energy into sales and marketing, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You build content, you spend time and energy on strategy, and possibly even spend money on advertising. So if your emails aren't being delivered, it could all be wasted effort. Today, I'm going to review best practices for improving your email deliverability in high level. Let's dive in and drive results. All right, here we are in a demo account of Marketecs Engine, which is our version of high level. And when you sign in, you typically land on the dashboard. So today we're talking about domain setup, email domain setup, and then warm up and ramp up of your email domain to improve deliverability. Plus, I'm going to cover a couple other best practices. One of the first things I'm going to go look at under settings and then down to email services, I want to cover the dedicated email domain. And if you look right here, this is telling us exactly what we need to know. Boost your email deliverability with a dedicated sending domain. And this explains exactly why you should do this. So one of the things we're running into, and you're seeing this more and more, is that you have a standard business email address, yourname@yourbusiness.com. And you're conducting business with that email address. You're sending client emails, you're getting updates from your clients. This is really important to protect this email address. One of the things that a lot of marketing systems have gotten away from is wanting people to use a different email address to actually send, say, their newsletters or nurture sequences or anything to that effect. That's what we're talking about here, is setting up a dedicated email domain. A lot of times we're seeing people put it as, it still could be their name, but then it's a subdomain. So it's sam@email.abc company. And that's called a subdomain when you put that email dot in front of your regular domain name. So it still looks pretty familiar to people. Some people probably aren't even going to notice this. I bet if you go back and look at your inbox right now, you're going to see that most of the major emails you've received in your inbox have something like this. They're using a subdomain and you probably didn't even notice it. Well, now you can too. You can follow all the big marketers and do things right. So let's go back and look again at how we set that up. Again, I am in settings and email services. If you don't have anything connected, when you first sign in here, you're going to get this create a dedicated domain notice. You can click that button. However, if for some reason you come in here and you had already maybe clicked outside of this, don't have that doesn't come up, you can always click the dedicated domain and IP here. This is where you're going to add a domain. And they even give you an example. So you can do, they're saying LC as in lead connector because that's the service behind this. Like I was mentioning, I was doing or have been doing mail or email dot and then the domain. And you can see here, it tells me I have a good subdomain put in there. That's great. Looks good. I'm going to add and verify. Some of the domain providers will actually automatically connect here. So if you have Cloudflare and you're signed into Cloudflare in another tab, then it will actually add the records automatically. If you're not, if you're using one where it says you have to connect manually, then it's going to give you the information on this next screen for exactly how you can set this up manually. These are the records that you need to add. So wherever you purchase your domain, you're going to go to that source. You're going to find a place that says edit DNS records, edit DNS records, and you're going to add these items, a text record, a second text record, a CNAME, an MX, and another MX. And you're just going to use this little button to copy and put it in the first field, copy and put it in the second field. It sounds way more technical and advanced than it really is. It's pretty much just a copy and paste. Once you've done this, you're going to click verify. Obviously, this is not going to work because I did not actually set these up. So you can see here that they all say not verified. But at this time, I can also go back through and re-add these, and I can copy all of these items. You can see the text fields, name, MX, and another text field down the bottom here. This is a DMARC record, which is important, very important for deliverability. This is something that has been required for at least the past year with email marketing systems, and Google and other major email providers are looking for these DMARC records, these verifications that this is coming from a good email address, that it's not spam, that it's not going to be harmful. Once you add all of these records, you're going to click verify again, and these are all going to come up green and pretty and verified. And that is the first step in improving email deliverability, is having a dedicated email address and adding all the proper DNS records. All right, once you've accomplished that first step, we're going to go back out to our settings and email services. Something else I might recommend connecting under Postmaster tools here, still in the settings and email services, Postmaster tools, is Google Postmaster. And you're just going to click the button and walk through the steps. And you can see here, it can help with your deliverability in Gmail inboxes, which we all know how many people are using Gmail these days. There's also a Microsoft option here that's going to look and troubleshoot. And obviously I'm not connected. All right, one other piece that we do have in here is the reply and forwarding. In a few minutes, in another piece of the system, I'm going to talk about making sure your reply address is the same as your sending address. And this is where you could actually set up forwarding. This is a bit of a newer thing, especially in Microsoft, and there's some other changes going on with email hosting where they're looking for the reply to address to be the same as the sender address. We have the ability to change this in our emails every time we're sending an email. We can have it send from that dedicated email domain that we created, but have the reply to be our normal email address because, of course, we want to get any replies. The problem with that is now the email providers are starting to see that and think it's suspect, and they may not deliver your emails as well if you have that set up, if your reply to doesn't match your sending address. So instead of changing your reply to address, we want to put in a forwarding address. And this is where you would type in your regular email address and you would just hit enter. And I can't tell you how many people go, why didn't it save? And it's because you didn't hit enter. So type in your email address, hit enter, and then save. And this is what will help make sure all your replies get pushed to your inbox while still keeping your reply to address and your sending address as your dedicated email domain. All right, those are the factors of setup when it comes to your email address. That's a big piece, getting the DNS records right and making sure you have your forwarding address accurate so that you don't have to do a separate reply to. Next, we're going to talk about the warm-up practices and then the ramp-up practices. All right, so the idea of warming up a domain means that you want to send emails specifically to people that you're pretty sure are going to open those emails, whether it's a really small number or you start with a lead magnet that you're sure everyone's going to open that first email because they just opted into something, or you're doing an event for a private group so you know that they're highly engaged. Maybe it's even some one-off emails inside the system, but it's this idea of the first couple of times that you're using that new dedicated email domain, you want to make sure that it gets attention. You want to make sure that it's not ignored, that you don't have a high amount of unopened rates, because then the inbox providers are going to start looking at it as this is not interesting content. This is not stuff that we want to deliver. This is promotional. This is whatever they're deeming it as, maybe even as bad as spam. Some recommendations that I've seen is that if you have a smaller, like I said, a smaller event or a closed community, that is some of the first emails that you send out from that brand new dedicated email domain. It's people that you know are waiting for this information. And so they're going to open this email, this confirmation email, this invitation. The other thing you can do is in your current system, the system you're migrating away from, you could pull a list of all of the people that normally open your emails. You could take that list and import them into the system first. Then you actually drip out some emails to those people that are a little bit more engaged. So again, the inbox providers are going to see that these people are open the emails from this new email address. And you're going to get that engagement is going to look really good right out of the gate initially, and they're going to be less worried about this new email address. So that's some ideas on how to warm up the email, and you want to be strategic about that and go really slow. small batches, as small as even no more than 50 per day. You could definitely go smaller than that, but if you've got hundreds or thousands on this highly interactive list, then you still want to go like 50 to 100 at a time and not send 1,000 emails all in one batch initially. Let's talk a little bit more about batching and also that next phase of sort of ramping up your sending. Once you're at a point where you're ready to start sending all of your emails from high level, ready to start sending your newsletter and all of your communications from high level, we want to look at the first couple of emails being sent out in batches and not thousands at a time. Typically, we'll send newsletters out from campaigns, and we would create a new campaign. And I am just going to pick a template. This is less about the email builder and more about the batch email send settings. So we're going to ignore what this email looks like. I have a whole nother video on how to build your emails and actually make them look pretty. But if we go next to send and schedule, you can see that there is send now, schedule for later, and batch schedule. There's also RSS, but batch schedule is what we're looking at today. So if you've got 5,000 people on your email list, 500,000 people on your email list, this is how you can send messages out to them without sending them all at once. And you can have some control over how many go out, how often they go out, and start to warm up and ramp up that email list for better deliverability. I have been doing this on at least the first 2 large email blasts that we send out for our clients. At least the first 2, sometimes 3, kind of depends on the size of the list and also what our open rates and click rates looked like for the first one and the second one. It's kind of a moving target with some of this, right? So what we're looking at is we pick a start date. So we say we want our batch sending to start on the 14th at, let's say, 6:17 a.m. Okay. And we want this to go out in batches of 100. And we want them to repeat every 60 minutes, not hours. And let's see, that is Thursday. So Thursday, the 14th at 6:17 a.m., 100 emails are going to go out. And then at 7:17, another 100 emails are going to go out. And it's going to keep sending 100 emails until it's gotten through the entire list of who was supposed to receive this email. So if this is 1,000 people and you're sending out 100 emails every hour, it's going to take 10 hours for this. And so it's all still going to go out within 1 day, which that's great, right? But let's say you have 500,000 emails and you're sending even 500, you've got to figure out your timing. So we're sending this out on a Thursday. Let's say we want them to go out on Thursdays and Fridays, but we don't want them to go out on Saturdays and Sundays. So if all the emails haven't been completed by Friday afternoon, and we can do a starts and ends time, by Friday at a certain time, we want them to start again on Monday, or maybe not Monday. Monday's probably a bad day to send emails, but Tuesday. So these are the days that we want these emails to send, is Tuesday through Friday. Again, if you figure out the timing and it looks like they're all going to go out within a day or two, you don't really have to worry about turning these days of the week off. You also don't have to worry about the starts and ends time. But if you don't want emails going out in the middle of the night, you might want to say that these emails are going to stop at 9:30 p.m. And we already know that they're going to start right around 6 a.m. Well, they're going to start right around 6 a.m. on the first day, but on the second day, what time do you want them to start? Probably still around 6 a.m. And this is, again, if it's breaking over multiple days. If it's not going to break over multiple days, then the send on and the start and end times do not matter. This is only if it's going to take multiple days to get your batch all the way out. Then you can set your sender email. This needs to be that email, that dedicated, brand new dedicated email domain. Can't tell you how many times we've gone through the process of setting up the DNS records, creating the dedicated domain, and then somebody will come in here and put their regular email address. And it makes a moot point of the whole process. So remember to use your dedicated email sending domain, your new marketing email domain here. Custom reply to address, we do not recommend. As I said before, set up the forwarding. Do not do this custom reply to address. Then you can create your sender name and then all the other normal stuff, your subject line, your preview text. And then this is where you're going to add your contacts. And there's several ways you can do this. You can select specific contacts. And this might be where you say, you know, I just want to send emails to certain people as I'm warming up this domain. You could pre-create a smart list in your contacts and send this to a smart list. Again, this could be the people that are your higher level engagement. You could do tags, and we use a newsletter tag for most of our accounts to notate those people that have actually opted in for our newsletter, for our marketing emails. And then there's other things, segments, and you can actually build segments in here. So you would add the contacts that you want. When you add those contacts, it's actually going to show you your batch setting, how this is going to go out. And let me just add some contacts here. And then you can see batch, because I only have 3 contacts, it's only going to use one batch. But if it was going to go out over multiple hours, it would actually show me 100 are going to go out at this time, 100 at this time, 100 at this time, based on the settings I have up above. That's kind of nice to be able to see those batch details and know that this is going to span over 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. You don't actually have to do the math yourself. I do like turning on link tracking. I like to know when links were clicked. UTM tracking is a little bit controversial. It's really nice to have the information, but there's controversy around the fact that this could actually impact email deliverability. Maybe do some testing on your own, see if it has an impact on yours or not. But this is one, if I was going to leave one turned off, this would be the one I would leave turned off. And then you have some added stuff here that is just for your use, automatically tag anyone that interacts with your campaign. And you have the option to resend this to anyone who did not open it. And if you turn this on, you will see that you can resend it in X number of days or X number of hours. So there's a little bit of automation actually built into this one-off email campaign, even though it's a one-off email campaign, which is nice. All right, once you have all your settings as you want them, you're confident in it, you would hit save, and then you can review and schedule. All right, so that is how you set up your dedicated sending domain with DNS Records. That is how you warm up your domain to help email deliverability. And that is how you ramp up your email sending capacity to ensure you keep that email deliverability healthy. Once you've done a couple of those batch sends, like I said, I recommend at least 2 for big batch emails. But I would go back and look at your analytics and see what your open rates were, what your click rates were, and then decide whether you want to do a third one or not. Some people only do 1 as a batch send. You can experiment with yours, but those are some best practices and tips that I've learned along the way for email deliverability and high level. If you have questions about high level or about our version of high level Marketecs Engine, there's a link in the description, and I would love to chat with you. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe.